Sweet home, Santa Barbara, where the skies are so blue. Sweet home, Santa Barbara, what's worked for me can work for you.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to Sweet Home Santa Barbara. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Robinson, and I'm with my friend and realtor,
Scott Williams.
Well, welcome back, Scott. In previous episodes, you've talked a lot about getting a home ready for sale, but we wanted to put a lot of your best ideas, critical ideas, in one episode called The Best of Staging and Home Prep. So you're going to cover a lot of stuff rather quickly today, but when you think of staging and home prep, what does every seller need to know for sure?
Well, there's always three really greatest hits. They're color and bark and staging. Those are the things that every seller ought to do.
Okay, color meaning the color of the house, the color of the door. What are we talking about?
Yeah, the color of the house, the door, the paint, the inside, outside paint. Paint just makes an enormous difference in a house. To not paint a house before you put it up for sale is, boy, you really got to think, if things need to look good, or you need to just decide you're going to go a different road. But if you're going to fix it up, you got to do the color.
Uh-huh. And the second thing you said was what?
Bark. Bark, mulch. It's sort of like the paint on your landscape.
Uh-huh.
You're covering up all the dirt. No dirt should be showing. It all needs to be covered up between all the plants. And if you don't want to plant more plants, because that costs money, it's less expensive to bark or mulch the yard, and it gives it such a finished look.
And these things are easy to do, and they don't cost much, which is nice.
They don't cost much. They're easy to do. They always work.
And I would imagine they have an enormous return on investment.
Yeah, this is your first impression. This is the bang or the zing in the first impression.
Mm-hmm. And what was the third thing you mentioned?
Staging. Now, we use professional stagers, and I highly recommend professional stagers, but at the very least, a professional stager should walk through your house, and there should be a discussion between the homeowner and the realtor and the stager on what things the owner can do to arrange their own furniture to make the place look most attractive. But we've used these stagers oftentimes, and people will even move out of their houses and let the stagers have at it and do their thing because it produces such a high profit.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you have to pay such people a fair amount of money for that.
Yes, but fair amount of money is only a relative terms. If you spend $5,000 and make $50,000, it's $45,000 of profit. I'm sorry, that does not seem like a very big expense to me.
Well, that's a fair amount of money.
It's a lot of money.
You're getting it.
Yes, this is exactly, and that's an inexpensive home. We can double or triple those numbers with a multi-million-dollar home in Montecito.
Wow, that's amazing. What percentage of the people that you deal with know all this stuff, or is this like new information for a lot of them?
Well, people have seen this if they've been tuned into television programs like home improvement shows, but it's really only the last 15 years that this has come into strong prominence in the marketplace. But prior to that, these things weren't even talked about.
And makes a huge difference too. So what are some things you can do in terms of like smell or color around the house that can make a simple thing that would make a big difference?
Well, we have a saying in real estate, if you can smell it, it's hard to sell it. And there's a lot of truth in that. This gets into people's pets. It gets into food smells. Occasionally we'll have really elderly people where there was, just human habitation smells were very strong in a home. Tobacco. These can make a real difference, and we want to try to mask all of those things. And there's a few tricks of the trade. And if you have those exact situations, then we'll get into a conversation about what's best to do in each one of those.
Mm-hmm. And, when I bought my house a few years ago, there was a lot of flowers everywhere. And I assume that's a trade secret as well.
That's true. We oftentimes will put flowers near the front door. Temporary yellow, we've referred to that. You want a burst of yellow color right at the front door. And if you're living in your home, you can do that. If it's vacant, you won't be able to manage that quite so well.
Yeah, yeah. And there's things like, inspections. How do you handle that when you're thinking of selling your house?
Well, it is usually to the seller's benefit to inspect their home and provide the inspections to the buyer, so the seller knows what they're selling and the buyer knows what they're buying. And every home may have specialized inspections that they need, whether it would be a foundation or a roof or the pipes, the wires, the plumbing, the heating systems. All of these may need inspections, and we have to get into discussions about how many of these to do. But it usually is a way for the seller to save having the buyer ask them for money and to know what they're really putting on the market.
Mm-hmm. And one issue that comes up, I'm sure, is people have difficulty letting go of their house. How do you deal with that?
That's true. There's a psychology in selling a home that you want to not claim the house for yourself. And a good way that everybody will recognize as claiming a house is if you walk down a hallway in many homes, you'll see a parade of pictures that is the family on their vacations. And here they are skiing, and here they are water skiing. And also the same thing happens at the refrigerator, where there's all the photos of the family are on the refrigerator. These are the sort of things that claim the territory as this is where I live. This is my home. I enjoy living here. And we take all of that down. So you're not claiming your home when your home is for sale. We want all of that stuff to just disappear and for a new person to be able to take over that home as their home. You want that to happen psychologically.
Yeah. I know when I bought this house that I live in now, the owners had a hard time letting go, and I felt like I was like clawing the house back from them. It was a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, we call that territory marking. It's not a very good idea when you're selling your home.
Yeah, and lastly, you have something called the rule of 1, 3s, and 5s. What is that?
Well, I'm not sure it's the final thing, but it's an important thing. Many people collect things. You may collect frogs. You may collect unicorns. You may collect many different things at many different levels. You could collect Van Gogh paintings if you had the wherewithal to do that.
I do that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoy that your Van Goghs. So you should only show one of them. It's the strongest to show just one thing. And this is going to be like on your mantelpiece in your living room above the fireplace. Having just one thing there is the strongest. 3 things is like, okay. And 5, if you just have to have a display, especially if you're a collector, you should stop at 5 as the most that you display of anything. Mm-hmm. And these are uneven numbers. They don't have to line up quite right. It always works. And there's this descending order of strength. And that's a very useful rule to know when you're doing decoration just around your house, and certainly when the place is up for sale. We failed to mention the color. The top color for the front door is black. Doesn't work on every house, but a very strong dark color is your best color for the front door of your house. Trying to think what else would fit into a greatest hits of home preparation, but we've hit on some very important ones that make for some pretty big money right here.
Yeah, that sounds great. How can people get hold of you?
Well, email is a good way. I'm Scott at scottwilliams.com.
And 2 T's in Scott.
2 T's in Scott.
Okay, well, I always like the great information put in a really simple way, quick, and it can lead to a large return on investment for your listeners. So tell your friends and family about this, anybody you know who's selling a house, and we'll see you next time at Sweet Home Santa Barbara.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app. If you know someone preparing to sell their home, please tell them about the podcast. Visit scottwilliams.com to contact me and download the 2 free e-booklets, Is My House Saleable Now? And How Not to Buy a Money Pit. Thank you for listening.